Hi again, Mark here from talkingbass.net. This week I have the third in this short series of lessons looking at how we can play the major scale through the cycle of fourths in several positions on the neck. And that's as a way of learning the scale itself, but also as a means of understanding the fretboard a little better. Remember, the lesson material is all available to download from talkingbass.net, so just follow that link in the info below. And as I always say, while you're there, don't forget to check out the lesson map where you'll find every lesson I've released, all categorized for ease of navigation. Then subscribe for free to gain access to the members area where you'll find a ton of bass practice resources like ebooks, tracks, a forum and much more. So go check it out. Okay, so far we've tried two exercises that work the major scale through the cycle of fourths down here in this low position, something I'm going to call the first position. In the first exercise, we tried playing the major scale from the root note, as low a root note as we can find, as high as we can go in that position, then down to as low as we can go in that position, and then back to the root note. So for a C major, there's a C, play up as high as we can go, down as low as we can go, and then back to the root note. So we're always emphasizing that root note in there. Then for the second exercise, we just played the same scale, but just starting from as low as we can, so as high as we can, and back. So we just start from the low E, and then work up through that same pattern and back down, okay? So we're not emphasizing the root note in there. We're not playing the root note first. So it's not root note to root note. It's just as low as we can go. So it's either going to be the open E or the F, and then back down, okay? So they're the first two exercises. So if any of this, if this lesson this week, any of this seems alien to you and you don't know what I'm talking about, just work back through those two exercises and everything will make sense. So both of those exercises were limited pretty much down to this low area here between the first and sixth frets. But for this lesson, we're going to try both of those exercises again, but this time we're going to perform them in a higher position. So I'm going to call this the second position, for want of a better term. The name's irrelevant really, it's just one complete hand position higher. So we're pretty much going to be operating around the 7th to 10th fret up here, but we might move a fret higher or lower depending on whether we've got sharps or flats in there. So let's begin with a look at the C major scale, and that'll give us a good idea of how this position is going to work. So we begin with a C at the 8th fret of the E string, and that's starting with the second finger, okay, or middle finger. So it's a second finger C major scale. So we have C, D on the E string, so 8th fret, 10th fret. Then we move on to the A string and we have E, F, G. So that's 7th fret, 8th fret, 10th fret. First finger, second finger, fourth finger. Then we move on to the D string and we play A, B, C. So that's 7th fret, 9th fret, 10th fret. First finger, third finger, fourth finger. So as you can see, it's the plain old C major scale starting on the second finger. Very popular pattern. So now let's just add the notes above and below. So we're just going to expand on it in that position. So the only note that we can play below there, because we've kind of got a one finger per fret system going on here. We've got the first finger over the 7th fret, second finger over the 8th fret, third finger over the 9th fret, and fourth finger over the 10th fret. So that's the position we're working in. So the only note we can get below the C is the B. Okay, so we've got the B below the C, and then above that C, once we work up, we can then move on to the G string and play D, E, F. Okay, so that's 7th fret, 9th fret, 10th fret, first finger, third finger, fourth finger. So all together now we have the notes C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F. That's if we work all the way up, and then just as we did in the first exercise, we come all the way back down, and then we play the B below, and then we come back to the C. So again, it's that same old exercise. We start on the lowest root note we can find, so in this case C, play as high as we can in that position. Then we come down and go as low as we can, and then back to the root note. Okay, so that's a C major scale fully extended in that second position. So that's the C major scale in this second position, and you might have noticed that it's simply a repeat of the patterns that we had in the first position, but up in the second position a string lower. So if you look at the C major scale in the first position, so if we just play it from the root note there, and and then come down as low as we can and back. In the same way, if you look at the A string pattern, we had B, C, D. All we've done is taken that B, C, D pattern there, that half step, whole step, and moved it down onto the E string, just higher up in the second position. B, C, D. B, C, D, B, C, D. That's all we've done. And then we look at the D string, E, F, G. We've taken that little pattern, E, F, G, and played it up here. Then we take the A, B, C there on the G string, A, B, C. Again, just shifted down into the second position. So it's exactly the same pattern, just a little higher on the neck. And then, of course, we've simply added the G string there. So we have D, E, F to finish. So we've just extended above. But that might help a little bit in moving these patterns from the first position up to the second position. So it's just something to bear in mind there. You might have also noticed that this position is one complete hand position higher than the first position. So if I was to play the C major scale from the open E down here in the first position, the second position is simply a smooth continuation of those previous notes. So once again, if we go back to the second exercise we played, and we played the C major scale, so E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, so that's the C major scale starting from the open E there. E, F, G, A, that's the pattern that we had on the E string. Then when we shift up, B, C, D, for the second position, it's just a smooth continuation of those notes. So E, F, G, A, B, C, D. So we don't miss any notes out or anything like that. It's just that we're moving to the next note and continuing. So if we were to start from the bottom there, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, you know, we've got a complete C major scale all the way up there. But I'll come to that in the next lesson, but that's something just to bear in mind there in terms of what these positions are. So now it just remains for us to play all of the major scales through the cycle of fourths in that second position. So we'll work through both of the two exercises that we tried in the two previous lessons, and if you need any help, remember all of the lesson materials available to download from talkingbass.net, so just follow that link in the info below, but I will give you some tips just after. So here's the first exercise. So this is going to be from the lowest root note we can find, as high as we can go, as low as we can go, and back, okay? So we begin C major. F major. B flat major. E flat major. A flat major. D flat major. G flat major. B major. E major. A major. D major. G major. And we're back to C major. For the second exercise, I'll be playing exactly the same patterns, but I'll be starting as low as I can go, then working up as high as I can go and back, so there's no root note to root note action. So I'll begin with C major. F major. B flat major. E flat major. A flat major. D flat major. G flat major. B major. major, A major, D major, G major, and we're back to C major. Okay? So through these exercises, you might have noticed some repeating patterns, and those patterns are based on the position of the root note. Now, when you prepare for each new scale, first look for the root note. That's why that first root note to root note exercise is so valuable. You get to look for the root note in that position, which in turn can help you knowledge of the notes in that area. And this second position is one of those no man's land kind of areas that beginning bass players hate. So look for the root note and then try to recognize the system of string patterns or intervals that surround it. As a really good example, let's have a look at the A major scale. So the A major in this second position is very similar to the E flat major in the first position. So if we just look at the overall pattern there for the A, the lowest root note in that position is this one here at the 7th fret of the D string. So it's pretty high up. And that was the same thing that happened down here with the E flat. So we've got the A there. So we have to look at the notes and be really aware of the notes below it, okay? So as soon as I see there that A, you know, on that D string under the first finger, I know that down here we've got that whole step, half step pattern and then whole step for the remaining strings. So we've got that little pattern down there for that B, C sharp and D, and then we've just got that whole step, whole step, whole step, whole step, whole step, whole step, okay? So it's just a set of string patterns there, and that would be exactly the same if we were down here for the E flat. Okay, but we still have to be aware of where that root note is. You know, don't just learn it as a scale starting on B, you know. It's got to be a case of knowing where that root note is and knowing not only what the pattern is that surrounds it, but also knowing what all of the intervals are, you know, for each of those notes. So you've got to know that that B there is the second. Then we've got the C sharp being the third, that's the fourth, 5th, 6th, 7th, you know, the root note, etc. So as well as just knowing a set of patterns, you really want to know what all of those intervals are in relation to that root note. Now, just as one last tip and warning, just like I mentioned in the last lesson, don't try learning all of these scales and these exercises all in one go, because it's likely to be, you know, blow your brain and, you know, it's just going to be information overload and you'll just give up, you know, because there'll be too much coming at you. If you feel really, really confident with your scales in, you know, different positions and the cycle of fourths, then, you know, go for it. But if you have any difficulties at all, just try one scale for a while and milk that, and then add one more, that way. So start with C major. Just try playing that around, you know, mess around in it. You know, just noodle around in it, you know, just mess around, and then eventually, once you feel confident with it, add the F major. You know, and, you know, try the two exercises and then put them both together. You know, and then add the B flat major, E flat major, etc. Take it slow. Really get those scales under your fingers first before trying the full exercise. Okay, so these exercises are good for learning scales, but they're also great for making a move into this higher position, and it should help with your all-round playing because it forces you to think rather than just relying on playing the same simple box patterns time after time. Next week, we'll look at position shifts and how we can transition from the first position to the second position using each string as a doorway. Okay, I'll see you later.